Introduction. Muhammad Sahib Nawaz. SP21 BCS 013. Topic. History of Kashmir. Name. According to the folk terminology, Kashmir means desiccated land. Historically, Kashmir is referred to Kashmir Valley. In Sanskrit, written by Kashmiri historian Kalhana in 12th century CE, that Kashmir was formerly a lake. This lake was drained by the great rishi, Kashyapa. After the lake was drained, Kashyapa asked Brahmins to settle there. Early history. In 326 BCE, when Abies Ares was king of Kashmir, King Porus asked him to help him against Alexander the Great in the Battle of Hydaspes. Porus lost the battle and Abies Ares submitted to Alexander. During the reign of Ashoka, 304 to 232 BCE, Kashmir became a part of the Maurya Empire. In this period, Buddhism was introduced in Kashmir. The Emperor of Kishan, Kanishka, 127 to 151 CE, conquered Kashmir and established the new city of Kaniskapur. The Alkan Huns under Toramana crossed over the Hindus Kush and conquered Kashmir later in 5th century. In the 8th century, Kashmir became under the rule of Karkota Empire. In 10th century, royal guards, Tuntris, became very powerful in Kashmir. They were defeated by Queen Dida, Chakravarman. She died in 1003 CE, the throne passed to the Loghara dynasty. In 11th century, Mahmud of Ghazni made 2 attempts to conquer Kashmir. Both of his campaigns failed because he could not take by siege the fortress at Loot. Muslim rulers, 1346 to 1580s. Rinkana, a Tibetan Buddhist refugee in Kashmir, established himself as the ruler of Kashmir after Snelju. He was persuaded to accept Islam by his minister Shamir. Islam had penetrated into countries outside Kashmir. In 14th century, Islam gradually became the dominant religion in Kashmir. Sultan Sikha Ndar, 1389 to 1413 CE, also earned the title Butshiakan for destroying idols. Sultan Zayn al-Abidin, 1420 to 1470 CE, invited artists and craftsmen from Central Asia and Persia. By the mid-16th century, the nobility of Chaks had become powerful enough to unseat the Shamir dynasty. Mughal general Mirza Muhammad Haider Duglat, a member of ruling family of Kasgar, invaded Kashmir in 1540 CE on the behalf of Humayun. Persecution of Shias, Shafis and Safis and instigation by Suri kings led to a revolt which overthrew Duglat's rule in Kashmir. Mughal, 1580 to 1750s. In 1586, Mughal Badshah, Akbar the Great took the control of Kashmir and added it to his Kabul Subah. In 1658 CE, when Aurangzeb ascended to the throne, religious intolerance and discrimination taxation reappeared. Nader Shah's invasion of India in 1738 CE further weakened Mughal control over Kashmir. Durrani Empire, 1752 to 1819. In 1752, Ahmed Shah Durrani of the Afghan Durrani Empire took control of Kashmir. In the mid-1750s, Afghan appointed governor, Sukh Jiwan Mal rebelled against the Durrani Empire. He got defeated in 1762. The empire controlled Kashmir until 1819, after that Sikh Empire annexed in the region. Sikh rule, 1820 to 1846. Kashmir fell to the conquering armies of the Sikhs under Ranjit Singh of Punjab after the Battle of Shopian in 1819. Sikh rule was generally considered oppressive. They enacted many anti-Muslim laws, including closing down the Jamia Masjid in Srinagar and banning the azan. Jalab Singh got appointed as the Raja of Jammu in 1820. 1947. In 1947, Hari Singh, grandson of Ranbir Singh, was ruling Kashmir. That was the ending time of British rule in subcontinent and the subsequent partition of British India Empire into 2 newly independent Dominion of Pakistan and Dominion of India. In 1947, Kashmir's population was 77% Muslims and 20% Hindu. The Maharaja signed a standstill agreement with Pakistan. Such an agreement was pending with India. Following huge riots in Jammu, in October 1947, Pashtuns from Pakistan's northwest frontier province, recruited by the Punk rebels, invaded Kashmir. The tribesmen engaged in looting and killing along the way. The ostensible aim of the guerrilla campaign was to frighten Hari Singh into submission. Instead, the Maharaja appealed to the government of India for assistance, and the Governor-General Lord Mountbatten agreed on the condition that the ruler accede to India. Once the Maharaja signed the instrument of accession, the Pakistani government immediately contested the accession, suggesting that it was fraudulent, that the Maharaja acted under duress and that he had no right to sign an agreement with India when the standstill agreement with Pakistan was still in force. Post-1947. 1948, India raises Kashmir in the UN Security Council, which in Resolution 47 calls for a referendum on the status of the territory. The resolution also calls on Pakistan to withdraw its troops and India to cut its military presence to a minimum. A ceasefire comes into force, but Pakistan refuses to evacuate its troops. Kashmir is for practical purposes partitioned. 1950s, China gradually occupies eastern Kashmir, Aksai Chin. 1965, a brief war between India and Pakistan over Kashmir ends in a ceasefire and a return to the previous positions. 1971-72, another Indo-Pakistani war ends in defeat for Pakistan and leads to the 1972 Simla Agreement. 1984, the Indian Army seizes control of the Siachen Glacier, an area not demarcated by the line of control. 1990, the insurgency escalates after the Indian Army kills about 100 demonstrators at Gawa Cattle Bridge. 1999, India and Pakistan go to war again after militants cross from Pakistani-administered Kashmir into the Indian-administered Kargil district. India repulses the attack, accuses Pakistan of being behind it, and breaks off relations. 2011 September, Indian forces kill 3 Pakistani soldiers in firing across the line of control. India accuses Pakistan of opening fire first. 2013 September, Prime Ministers of India and Pakistan meet and agree to try reduce the number of violent incidents at their disputed border in Kashmir. Curfew. 2016 July, authorities impose an indefinite curfew in most parts of Indian-administered Kashmir after the killing of popular militant by security forces of Burhan Wani. 2016 August, a curfew in most parts of Indian-administered Kashmir is lifted but schools, shops, and most banks remain shut and mobile and internet services remain suspended. 2016 September, India and Pakistan exchange a war of words after 18 Indian soldiers are killed in a raid by gunmen on an army base in Indian-administered Kashmir. 2016 September, India says it has carried out surgical strikes against suspected militants along the de facto border with Pakistan in Kashmir, but Pakistan rejects the claims. 2016 October, the Indian Army shoots dead 3 suspected militants as they try to enter an army camp in northern Kashmir. 2019 August, Indian government strips Jammu and Kashmir state of the special status that gave it significant autonomy.